Wait a second and don't scroll away yet, because I want to ask you something that might permanently change the way you look at yourself, the people around you, and the world you're trying so hard to survive in. Be honest for a moment. Deep down, do you still believe that being a good person will somehow protect you? That kindness guarantees safety? That if you are generous enough, people will stay loyal? That if you are honest enough, people will automatically respect you? That if you just keep doing the right thing, life will eventually pay you back? Maybe you wouldn't say it out loud, but is that still the quiet story running in the background of your mind? If it is, then you've been living under one of the most dangerous illusions human beings ever created, because in reality, blind goodness doesn't act like armor. It acts like bait. It doesn't hide you from predators. It signals to them that you are open, soft, and easy to use. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this long before social media quotes tried to turn him into a cartoon villain. He wasn't just obsessed with cruelty and manipulation. He was obsessed with survival. He watched kind rulers get overthrown by colder men. He watched idealistic reformers get crushed by people who didn't care about fairness, only about leverage. He watched gentle leaders trust the wrong faces and lose everything. And he wrote down what he saw in language so blunt that even today people are still offended by it. What I want to do in this video is take that brutal clarity and apply it to your life right now, to your relationships, your career, your family, your friendships, even the way you talk to yourself. Because whether you realize it or not, the way you use your own goodness is either protecting your future or quietly sabotaging it. I'm not here to tell you to become evil. I'm not asking you to start hurting people or taking pleasure in anyone's pain. I'm not saying you should throw away empathy, compassion, or loyalty. In fact, those things are incredibly powerful when they're used correctly. What I am saying is that there is a huge difference between being good and being harmless. A surgeon with a scalpel is good. A child waving a kitchen knife around is not evil, but they are dangerous in a different way. They don't understand what they're holding. Most people treat their goodness like that knife in the hands of a child. They swing it everywhere. They give it to everyone. They never ask who is standing close to them or what those people plan to do with it. And then, when they cut themselves or get stabbed with their own kindness, they say things like, "The world is unfair, and people are ungrateful," without ever realizing that they handed those people the weapon in the first place. Think for a second about the nicest person in your life. Maybe it's a parent who always helps, a coworker who always covers shifts, a friend who never says no. Now look closely. Are they truly respected, or are they simply available? When decisions are being made, do people turn to them, or do they turn to the louder, tougher personalities? When promotions appear, does that person get them, or do they just get more work and more "thank you, you're a lifesaver" messages that never turn into actual power? The pattern is almost always the same. The person who gives the most receives the least control. At first, their goodness is praised. People say, "You're amazing. I don't know what we'd do without you." Over time, the compliments become rarer, but the demands increase. You can see this in small things. Imagine a woman named Sarah in an office. The first few months, every time she stays late to help, her manager thanks her personally. After 6 months, everyone just assumes she'll be the one staying behind. She's not kind Sarah anymore. She is the person who will handle it. Then one day she has a family emergency. She can't stay late, and her manager suddenly acts cold and disappointed. Secretly, Sarah feels betrayed. Consciously, she thinks, "But after everything I've done." What she hasn't realized is that all those kind actions silently changed her role from colleague to resource. The same thing happens in families. The sibling who always helps the parents is the one they dump every responsibility on. The friend who always listens is the one everyone vents to, but nobody checks on. The partner who always forgives becomes the emotional punching bag. None of this started because these people were bad. It started because people adapt. In psychology, there's a concept called hedonic adaptation. We get used to what's good. The first time someone does something generous, it feels special. The 10th time, it feels normal. The 50th time, you barely notice until they stop. So the more you give without boundaries, the less anyone feels that you're giving anything at all. That's the first cruel secret. Goodness, when it's constant and uncontrolled, becomes invisible. Now add Machiavelli's insight to that. People don't respond to your intentions. They respond to the outcomes that touch them. They don't live inside your heart. They live with the consequences of your behavior. If your kindness makes their life easier, they will accept it. If your kindness suddenly stops and makes their life harder, they will resent you, even if for years you bled for them. History is full of good men and women who meant well and lost everything because they didn't understand this simple rule. Machiavelli described the ideal prince as someone who appears merciful, faithful, humane, and religious, but is always ready to act in the opposite way when necessary. To modern ears, that sounds evil, but what he was really saying is that if you want to survive in a world of wolves, you cannot be a sheep that refuses to grow teeth. You must know how to be gentle and when to be terrifying. Most good people only learn the first half of that equation. They become experts at being soft and amateurs at being strong, and the world punishes amateurs. Look at your own life. How many times have you said yes when every cell in your body wanted to say no, simply because you were afraid of seeming selfish? How many times have you forgiven someone not because they changed, but because you were tired of the argument and you wanted peace, even for a little while? How many times have you taken responsibility for things you didn't do, cleaned up messes you didn't create, accepted blame that didn't belong to you, because deep down you hoped that if you endured quietly now, someone would appreciate you later? Most people are walking around with a secret resentment meter inside them, full of unspoken yeses. Every time you betray yourself in the name of being good, that meter climbs. You smile on the outside, but inside you're keeping score. And one day when it overflows, you explode, or you disappear, or you shut down. The tragedy is that nobody around you understands why, because they never saw all the internal deals you made with yourself. You never told them, "This is costing me," so they assumed it cost you nothing. From their perspective, you changed out of nowhere. From your perspective, they used you. The truth is that both of you were following invisible rules that were never discussed. Strategic goodness starts by making those invisible rules conscious. We have to talk about cost. Every act of kindness has a hidden price tag in energy, in time, in focus, in opportunity. When you say yes to staying late, you are saying no to sleep, to your own project, to your own health. When you say yes to driving a friend across town for the third time this week, you are saying no to something else that could have filled that time. When you say yes to listening to someone's drama for hours, you're saying no to your own mental quiet. Pretending that these costs don't exist doesn't make you saintly. It makes you blind. Machiavelli would say that a leader who doesn't count costs is not virtuous. He's reckless. The same is true for you. Now here's where it gets even darker. People who benefit from your blindness will encourage it. They will praise your big heart, your kind soul, your humility. They will tell you that saying no is selfish, that setting boundaries is cold, that thinking about your own future is not like you. But if you watch carefully, you'll notice something. The people who call you selfish, the moment you start protecting your time, are always the people who were profiting from your self-neglect. The people who say, "You've changed" when you finally stand up for yourself are really saying, "You've stopped letting me walk on you." Machiavelli warned rulers to beware of flatterers for this exact reason. Compliments are often a currency used to buy your compliance cheaply. Once you understand that, the social world looks very different. Let's slow down and imagine two different versions of you. In the first version, you keep living the way you always have. You keep saying yes because you don't want to disappoint. You keep helping everyone because you're terrified of being seen as cold. You keep trusting that people will see your heart and treat you fairly. Maybe for a while, you feel useful. But over the years, you notice a disturbing pattern. The more you give, the more is demanded. Your dreams get smaller because you have no time or energy left to pursue them. You start to feel invisible, like a background character in everyone else's story. And when you finally break, people look at you like you're the problem. In the second version, you start thinking like a strategist instead of a martyr. You still care, you still help, but you become extremely deliberate about it. Instead of helping everyone a little, you choose a few people or causes that actually align with your values and future. Instead of automatically saying yes, you pause and ask, what will this cost me? Is this mine to fix? What pattern am I reinforcing if I agree? Instead of wearing your heart on your sleeve for strangers, you keep your inner world for the people who have earned it with their consistency, their honesty, their respect. On the surface, you're still polite, but underneath you're constantly measuring, is this person adding to my life or draining it? Does this situation make me stronger or weaker over time? That second version of you might look colder to some people, especially those used to the unlimited version of you. But that version of you is the only one that will survive long enough to build anything that matters. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. People like to quote that as if he was telling everyone to be cruel for no reason. What he really meant is that respect is more stable than affection. People can love you and still abuse you. People can love you and still disrespect your time. People can love you and still lie to you. But it's much harder for people to consistently cross the boundaries of someone they quietly fear disappointing or provoking. Healthy fear is not terror. It is the awareness that there will be consequences. Your task is to become the kind of good person who carries consequence. When you say no, it stays no. When someone lies to you, there is a cost. When someone repeatedly disrespects your time, you remove their access. You don't scream. You don't create theatrics. You simply let reality correct them by withdrawing what they were taking for granted. This is the part most people avoid, because it feels harsh. They say things like, but what if they're going through something? Or, I don't want to be like the people who hurt me. That fear is understandable, but here is the paradox. By refusing to hurt anyone's feelings, you allow them to hurt your life. You think you are being kinder than the people who set boundaries. But in reality, you are being kinder to other people's comfort than to your own future. Machiavelli would call that a miscalculation. You're valuing the wrong thing. So how do you actually practice strategic goodness in real messy situations? Start by slowing down your yes. Most of us respond to requests automatically. We hear, can you? And our mouth says sure, before our brain has even finished calculating. From now on, train yourself to insert a pause. You can say, let me think about it, or let me check my schedule, even if you know your schedule is empty. The point of that sentence is not to buy time on the calendar. It's to buy time for your mind to run the cost-benefit analysis. During that pause, ask yourself 3 hard questions. First, if I say yes to this, what exactly am I saying no to? Not in theory, in reality. Am I saying no to rest, to a personal project, to time with someone I love, to my own health? Second, if I do this once, will it set a pattern? People rarely ask for help only once. They test. They see your reaction, and if you make it easy, that becomes the new normal. Third, does this person have a history of reciprocity, or do they only appear when they need something? If someone is consistently present, helpful, and respectful, then pouring energy into them is an investment. If someone only shows up with their hand out, then pouring energy into them is a leak. Once you start asking these questions, you realize how many of your old kind actions were really reactions, unconscious habits created by fear, guilt, or the desire to be liked. Strategic goodness replaces those reflexes with decisions. Sometimes you will still say yes, but that yes will be clean. You will give without resentment because you chose it with open eyes. Other times you will say no, and you will feel a new kind of fear. The fear of disappointing someone. That fear is actually a good sign. It means you are starting to place the weight of your own life back into your own hands. Be prepared. Some people will react badly. They will call you selfish, cold, distant, not like you used to be. And this is where you must remember a deeper truth. People who truly love you will adapt to your growth, even if it stings at first. People who only loved your compliance will try to drag you back into the old version of yourself. One group is your future. The other group is your past. Which one you listen to will determine the rest of your life. There is also another layer to strategic goodness that goes beyond personal boundaries. It's the question of outcomes. A lot of people stay stuck in toxic situations because they confuse feeling nice with doing good. For example, A manager avoids giving honest feedback because they don't want to hurt feelings, so the team keeps failing and everyone quietly suffers. A partner avoids difficult conversations because they don't want conflict, so the relationship slowly rots underneath forced positivity. A parent avoids discipline because they don't want to see their child upset, so the child grows into an adult who cannot handle the slightest frustration. On the surface, these people look kind. Underneath, their avoidance is creating long-term damage. Real goodness is willing to be the villain in the short term to be the hero in the long term. Think of a doctor setting a broken bone. In the moment, it is painful, brutal, even frightening. But that short pain allows the bone to heal straight. Refusing to touch it might feel gentle, but it leaves the patient crippled. So ask yourself, in your life, where are you avoiding short-term discomfort and calling it kindness, while secretly watching long-term damage pile up? Where are you staying silent when you should speak? Where are you smiling when you should be drawing a line? Where are you accepting at least it's peaceful when the price of that peace is your integrity? Machiavelli's most controversial sentence is that the end justifies the means. People use it to excuse cruelty, but the deeper reading is this: the means are only as good as the results they produce. If your nice behavior leads to resentment, exploitation, and wasted potential, is it truly moral? Or is it just more comfortable than doing what would actually fix the problem? Strategic goodness is obsessed with outcomes. It asks, will this actually make things better, stronger, truer in the long run? If the answer is yes, it is willing to endure being misunderstood. If the answer is no, it refuses to hide behind pleasant intentions. Look at the people you secretly admire, not just the ones you like, but the ones you respect. Usually they are not the eternally agreeable. They are the ones who can be warm, but also terrifyingly firm. They are the ones who can listen and then say, I understand, but the answer is still no. They are the ones who will help you, but will also call you out. That combination is what your own character is starving to develop. You don't need to become a cold monster. You need to become a warm person with a steel spine. And here is the final piece: legacy. When you think about the end of your life, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want people to say, they were so nice they never bothered anyone, and then move on? Or do you want people to say, they were strong, they were fair, they protected what mattered, they told me the truth when nobody else would, I am different because of them? History doesn't remember the endlessly agreeable. It remembers those who had the courage to make real choices. To do that, you need to survive first. You need to guard your resources, your energy, your mental health, your time. You cannot build anything lasting if you're constantly bleeding yourself out for people who treat your lifeblood like tap water. You cannot uplift anyone if you are always crawling out of a hole you dug with your own kindness. Survival is not selfish. It is the precondition for service. Machiavelli's rulers who lasted were not the ones who tried to please everyone. They were the ones who understood that power must be maintained if it's going to be used for anything at all. In your world, power is simply your capacity to make decisions and act on them. Every time you give that capacity away to guilt, to fear, to people-pleasing, you're slicing pieces off your own future. So here's the moment of decision. From this point on, you can keep practicing the old version of goodness, automatic, limitless, self-erasing, or you can start practicing strategic goodness. Kindness with a calculator, generosity with standards, empathy that includes yourself, not just everyone else. You can decide that your yes has value and your no has power. You can decide that your time is not a public resource. You can decide that being a good person and being a strong person are not opposites. They are partners. Weakness dressed as goodness is still weakness. Strength infused with conscience becomes something else entirely. It becomes character. Now I really want to hear from you. Do you feel like your own goodness has been used against you in the past? Have you ever noticed people turning cold the moment you finally set a boundary? Or, on the other side, have you already started using your kindness more strategically? And what changed in your life when you did? Did you lose people, gain respect, or both? Tell me your honest thoughts in the comments. Describe a moment when you realized your niceness was actually hurting you, or a moment when you chose a harder, more strategic kind of goodness and saw a better result. I'm genuinely curious where you draw the line between being a good person and being a fool. How do you personally decide when to say yes and when to say no? If this video challenged the way you usually think about kindness, power, and morality, hit like so it reaches more people who need this wake-up call. If you want more content that doesn't just tell you to be positive, but actually gives you frameworks to navigate a ruthless world with your eyes open, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And if you know someone who is constantly drained, constantly exploited, constantly confused about why their good heart keeps bringing them pain, share this with them. Your single act of strategic sharing might be the moment they finally stop confusing self-destruction with virtue. Your goodness is not your weakness. Blind goodness is. When you combine a good heart with a sharp mind, when you dress your empathy in boundaries and your kindness in strategy, you stop being prey and you start becoming a force. In a world full of wolves, don't try to be the cutest sheep. Become the shepherd who understands the wolves, who sees the traps, who protects the flock not with softness alone, but with insight, courage, and strength. And as you leave this video, ask yourself one last question. From this day forward, will your goodness be something that others control or something that you command?